And one, she says, a crush by its very nature is attachment. How can you surrender it if your brain is involuntarily obsessing about your desire? I think I want to go through and kind of answer each one of these if I can. Um, so let me sort of start with that. So just this idea of a crush or a deep spontaneous attraction to somebody. I think one thing we deal with a lot in this forum is the fact that there's the inner human that, of course, has emotions and pulls and also uh, recoils from certain things. I mean, you meet people sometimes and you're like, oh my God, get away. Like, you don't want to be near that person. You meet other people and you're immediately drawn. And that to me is just part of the human landscape. It's either the emotional setup or it's sometimes even past life connections. It can be anything. But I think what we're doing here in the forum is, on the one hand, acknowledging the emotion. You don't do anything, you don't beat yourself up for it. You don't say, oh, if I was really evolved, I wouldn't be thinking about this person all the time or even obsessed with them. You let it be. But then the other side of the equation is the part that's beyond the human. That's the transpersonal connection to the inner divine. And that's where you say, okay, God, I'm handing you my attachment. You can literally say, I'm handing you my crush. I'm handing this to you. And in a sense, show me what's meant to happen with it. If this is something that, is just there because it's fruitful for me to have it, and the other person, something's meant to occur here, and let me just feel whatever I'm meant to feel. But you're taking, it's the attachment that causes the suffering. So when you take that attachment and you actually say to the divine, this is what I'm feeling, I'm handing this to you. Take me over so this no longer tortures me. Something very different happens. You're not trying to make the crush go away. You're offering it. And so much of what we do here is that act of offering. And you can often feel it like you're opening your hands. And you can even sometimes visualize that person that you're so drawn to. You visualize them in your hands and you're saying, here, I'm giving this to this force of love and saying, do with this what you will. Because it's so interesting with this stuff. I'm imagining you've had this experience. I certainly have at different points in my life where you have this rabid crush on somebody and you think this is everything that you need. And then you find out later, you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Thank God this didn't go forward. And so, in a sense, you could say those really ferocious obsessions, sometimes they're karma and it's meant to go forward, and sometimes it just is activating a lost part of yourself. Sometimes it's your lost Mars, going, oh, wow, that person's so amazing. And when you start to really look at it, you're like, the qualities that you're so drawn to in them are parts of yourself that you've disowned. And there's a course, if you've never heard it, to the person who wrote this, if you never heard the relationship course about Mars and Venus, it's on the list of courses on the website. And I think it might be, there's actually two different ones. There's another one called Giving Your Love Life to Love, and then there's a Mars-Venus course. And they both address this in different ways, that sometimes with a crush, the biggest first step, besides offering it all to the divine, is re-owning the projection. As soon as you say, what is it in this person that I'm so attracted to? Without any blame or judgment, just curiosity. What is it that I'm so attracted to? Really often, you'll see the part of yourself. Whether it's that you're a musician who's not playing music, or they're very confident and you're somebody who's shy and doesn't let yourself speak. It's like so often there's an embodied quality. And if you re-own that quality, it's not that the attraction goes away, but the obsession with the attraction often lessens because you're starting to re-own the part of yourself that you're putting onto them and trying to get back through them, if that makes sense. So that's one thing I would just say is if it's a really compelling obsession like that, I would get either of those courses and go through the meditations that really take you into reowning the projection, or do it yourself if what I've said so far makes sense. But to me, it's that balance between letting the human feel whatever it's going to feel, because we just do. We're humans with desires and draws and all kinds of things. And without inviting the divine into that, I would say we're all just, you live as a human, the prisoner of every passing desire. And this route of offering frees you from that prison. You know, that's why to me, like courses that talk about manifesting your next soulmate, I never care about any of those, because I'm like, well, that's still in the prison cell. You're still saying, I need this in order to be whole. Let me try to do all these tricks and bring to myself exactly what my ego wants. That's very different than offering the desire for a partnership to this force of love and saying, you know my needs, you know my desires. If this is for the highest good, bring me the right person, the right situation is already selected, and I'll be guided to it in the right time and the right way. You can almost feel how that all changes things. Like suddenly you can breathe again. You're not like, oh, I have to have this or I'm going to die. You're feeling like, okay, open me. When it's time, let this happen. In the meantime, there can be preparation and all kinds of things you need to go through first to become ready to receive the right person, so that you don't just settle for something that is only a projection. So anyway, that's what I would say with that first part. And I guess even the way you're mentioning it, when you're saying your brain is involuntarily obsessing about your desire, yes, but what you can do is you literally, by offering the desire back, you're saying to the divine, part of the prayer of offering is, free me from the prison of this attachment. And so when you're feeling it, it's fine. You let yourself feel it, but you continue to give it back. And you even can call it the desire instead of your desire. And that makes the identification not be so ferocious. Like, you know, the person, just think about it. You see people do it all the time. They're like, I could never live without that person. I just could never live without them. I used to have a friend. She would honestly, every 6 months, have a different person in her life that she would say that about. And I would say, but that's what you said about the one before, and the one before that, and the one before that. And you can start to see that it's not actually about the other person. Sometimes it's the attachment to intensity. Sometimes it's the attachment to just the idea of being in love. And when that is offered directly to the divine, you're really saying, open me up to receive what is the highest. And in the meantime, here's the key, let me feel whole with or without this person. Let me feel whole with or without this person. That sentence, I found it in my own life, changes everything. Because the culture creates that illusion that creates the obsession. If I don't have this, I won't feel complete. So let me feel whole with or without this. You may have to say it many times. Each time the addictive nature returns. Just let me feel whole with or without this. You're even accepting it. I think that's also important. You're not blaming yourself. You're going, all right, I feel this. I'm being totally out of my mind right now. I'm feeling this. I accept myself feeling this. However, let me also hand it back to God for the highest to occur. Because truly, oh my God, when I look back on my own life, at some of the really obsessive attractions I had that did not work out. And I think of bullet after bullet that I dodged. I mean, really, it was like life in a shooting range. If you have a strong scorpionic or plutonic nature, you may have done a lot of that. And somewhere for me, a number of years ago, it finally, as I began to do those prayers that said, let me feel whole with or without this, I began to reclaim the parts I was projecting onto attractions, which certainly doesn't mean I don't have attractions anymore. But they're different. They're not from the obsessive place. Something else feels whole inside. And I know because it happened for me, it can happen for anyone. And other people in this forum have written about it as well. You start to get you back, to be present when the right person shows up. So